Welcome to a special edition of Warchant Roundtable. Certainly, we have you can see the panel of guests that we have on there. Our own Matt Laceris in there. Before we get to that, I want to really promote. We have a really good promo going. On Warchant.com. $1 for 7 days of access. You can't get anything for $1. Then you get 50% off. Your first year at Warchant. So great deal to sign up for, especially Thanksgiving. By the way, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And then, but let's just start. I get to bring. I haven't had him on before. This is a guy that I know very well, and Corey Bender from GatorsOnline. Corey, it's fun to actually have to get to do something with you this time. But
Yeah.
obviously, FSU UF week. You're welcome.
No, thanks for having me on, guys. I know it's been a long time coming. I know you and I always talk recruiting from afar,
Yeah.
so it's good to finally be on, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so me and Corey have been chatting, almost jokingly, during the season. And Corey, I asked you, I told you like about an interview, and Corey's, you're like, yeah. I said, well, he's probably going to have a lot of positive things to say about Florida. It's not much to say about FSU. And then you were like, well, it's not that much better around here. But obviously that shifted. But just
Mhm.
Corey, what really happened at certain parts of the year to really just give Florida this recruiting surge? I think they're up to 17 in the on three recruiting rankings, and probably could climb higher with certain guys. But what are they doing, or what things happened during the season, whether it's recruiting or team related, that really gave them a big shift?
Yeah, I think the main thing, Michael, I think the main thing is having Billy Napier come back. I think Florida had to make a decision whether they're going to keep him or not. And I know there was kind of a lot of these kids were kind of on the outside looking in saying, hey, we like Florida, but we just don't know who the head coach is going to be. So I think Florida, they had to come out, whether it was keeping Billy Napier or they're going to move on from him, they had to come out and make a decision. Once that happened, you kind of saw a lot of kids, Tremel Jones, you and I spoke about several weeks
Yeah.
ago. He was trending towards Florida behind the scenes the last couple of weeks, and he kind of received word that, hey, Napier's going to come back. I think that's what really kind of started it, having that quarterback in the class. But I think it really started with Napier coming back, and kind of with FSU too, with obviously with the FSU commits, they obviously parted ways with some coaches. So that I think the timing was all key for Florida too. I think if FSU didn't part ways with certain coaches, maybe they wouldn't have a chance with some of these guys. So I think it was just a mixture of things. Everything all fell at the right time. And then, Florida, I thought when they lost to Texas, it was like, man, that was a big step back. But, they played Georgia very tough. I think that opened the eyes of a lot of people. If DJ Lagway didn't get hurt that game, they probably had a good chance of winning. And then, obviously, Ole Miss and LSU were ranked victories. That kind of put two big recruiting weekends for them. So that helped. So I think it was just a mixture of things. I don't want to say it's luck, but everything fell at once. And it kind of just, landed to this. And we all know in recruiting, Tremel, he's a quarterback.
Hmm.
He's teammates with Jamie French. And I think he stays put with Texas. That's the vibe I get. But just getting him on campus was a big deal. So just, they picked up on that momentum. And, here we are today.
Yeah, it's weird, Corey, how recruiting can be shifted by team stuff. It's like I felt like when Graham Mertz's injury happened, that kind of opened the door to where we're at today.
Yeah.
With that opening, sometimes it takes a little luck where a guy gets injured, and because you go and split in time, and it just felt like I know FSU did that with Brock and Luke for a while at quarterback, but when you get a solo guy in there, it felt like he just settled in from there.
Yeah, and you also look at Lagway's stats. They're not eye-popping when you look at them, but he's one of those guys that makes a lot of big plays at the right time. Obviously elusive, he can kind of move the chains, but yeah, his stats aren't overwhelming, but he also stretches the field a lot. I know a lot of people with the Florida fan base, Graham Mertz was more conservative, kind
Yeah.
of underneath and intermediate routes, where DJ will stretch the field, and guys like Elijah Badger really kind of setting them up for those big plays to get the crowd on their feet. So I just think with him being the number one quarterback out of high school, it let all the fans kind of like, okay, hey, we have something to cheer for type thing. And then, even when he played at Tennessee, he got to start at Tennessee and played competitively. And then people are saying, hey, let's scrap the two quarterback system. I thought they had to do that. Mertz was so experienced. And
Yeah.
I think early on, you needed him to kind of let DJ kind of get his feet wet. But, 100%. I think overall, too, and I actually said this to a few people that when Lagway got hurt, this is before they decided to bring Napier back publicly, it almost gave Napier another excuse, like, hey, if he didn't get hurt, we would have won that game. I thought it
Yeah.
almost could have saved his job when he got hurt because they had a third string walk on who obviously struggled, Aiden Warner, when he did get in. And I think too, if you would have parted ways with Napier, you could have saw Lagway hit the portal. I
Right.
think if you would have said this earlier in the season, hey, they need to keep Lagway. A lot of people would have, keep Napier. A lot of people would have disagreed. But now, as you're seeing with recruiting, I think it probably was the right move, given one more year. So, man, it's been a whirlwind up in
Okay.
Gainesville, to say the least. I know for you guys too, it's just been a weird year.
Yeah, Matt, obviously on the flip side, FSU, there's been a lot of struggle. We've seen that, as far as that, how that affect recruiting with some decommits. Just, kind of what's the blueprint of what's next for them? What do you feel like needs to be done? I know the coaching hires are going to be a big deal that really can significantly sway, some top either portal guys or later if there's some guys in February. But what's kind of you feel what they do to do that need to do next?
Yeah, I mean, Michael, just from you and I talking, from being on the bench and stuff, I think I've kind of said for a while, it just feels like the 2025 class for FSU is kind of dead.
Yeah.
You can get what you get out of it at this point, but I think you need to start turning the page sooner rather than later to the portal. You're going to have to hit the portal hard this coming off season. I know that's not what we want because we got in this situation, or FSU got in this situation just from not being too good at high school recruiting, and you want them to focus on that now. I think that comes with the 2026 class. So I think you really need to start focusing everything there and on the portal for this offseason. Those got to be your two top priorities. Get what you can get. See if you can make any flips out of the 2025 class. It's probably unlikely with only a week out.
Yeah.
You got the new offer from the wide receiver who's a TCU commit, but he's from the Dallas area, Fort Worth area. So that's going to be a tough pull away from TCU. So that's kind of a strange offer at this point in time. The kid's from Irving, Texas, and Norvell's from Irving, Texas, so that helps a little bit. But again, at this point, it's just hard to pull these off at the last second.
Well, certainly, guys. There's a few big ones still left. I know one's like FSU commit, one's a Florida commit. I think the big one's Solomon Thomas. Corey, I know we both talked about that constantly. Offensive lineman Solomon Thomas. He's the last big one that he's really stayed true to his plan, which is like he wants to see who the offensive line coach is going to be because he feels very comfortable with Mike. What's kind of your gauge of feeling of where I guess Florida's at? I feel like Florida is certainly the biggest threat. Yeah, the three teams with LSU and is the other one, but just I want to get your feedback, and I'll chime in after you're done. But just kind of from the Gator side, how they feel.
Yeah, and confidence is high. It's kind of weird because where the summer LSU was considered the biggest threat, probably over Florida when those OVs took place. But as time goes on, I just think with Brian Kelly, with his situation, the fans were chanting his name, "Fire Brian Kelly," or whatever it was the last game. It's just the buzz isn't there with them. He had a great visit, but I know at Florida he knows a lot of people on the roster. He knows that staff, and it goes back to the whole Napier situation, him returning for another season. I think probably if Florida would have parted ways with him, maybe LSU would probably be the biggest threat. But yeah, I just think overall it comes back to that time and think Florida. He obviously he loves DJ Lagway. Told Chad Simmons this week that he thinks Florida will win a national championship with them. You hear that all the time. We'll see what happens. But he obviously is very high on him and knows a lot of people on that roster from the Jacksonville area. I think that's key. We have Sharif Denson. You can go on and on. Pop Howard, a lot of guys that he knows. And I just think overall, I think Florida coming on late, they had to get him on campus. They had him on campus for the LSU game. I think that was key to teams that he was considering. And saw Florida have a big victory. So I think right now, Michael, I think you have to kind of maybe give Florida a slight edge. But this is a recruitment. I could see him pick LSU, Florida State, or Florida and win it. I wouldn't be surprised. Like I'd be like, oh, he picked LSU. Okay, they were buzzing for a long time. Part of me still thinks he might stay with FSU depending on the hire. You can tell there's loyalty there. And I feel like it's not going to be easy for him to get off that commitment. A lot of people think, oh, he's definitely gone. I'm not like that. I think he could stay. But as someone told me, hey, today, where you think? Probably the very slight edge to Florida. And it's not much separation.
Yeah, I agree with your point about his loyalty. And like I said, when he committed, and Matt's pointed this out several times too, he said, I want to be part of the change because he's really mad about when they got snubbed and the 13-0 season. And he's just really been the guy that you didn't get a lot of, flubbing and make it, sound good. He was very direct when stuff he didn't like with the portal and how FSU was so active. But I think it was other things like, there was a connection with FSU that is very personal there. I think really depends. For me, it depends on the hire. I think if he's
Yeah.
comfortable with the hire, I think he's going to end up at Florida State. That's the gist I've gotten from people around him. And FSU side, it kind of feels a similar way. But Matt, just this is certainly a big one, and I think kind of all eyes are. This is one of those things that going into that, portal season and coaching hires, I think this is one that is a must for the FSU to you keep in this class. But kind of your feelings about Solomon Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's the biggest one you have in the class. If you're going to keep anyone, that's the one you have to keep or try the hardest to. Like you said, it comes down to whoever they hire at offensive line coach. I think he does stick if he likes him even a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he'll stay. And I was surprised. I said it on I don't think it's out yet, but when I was talking to Zach on the Gators Online show yesterday, I was surprised that he has stuck around this long. To be completely honest, like I thought that relationship with Alex Atkins was so close that if Alex Atkins left, he was going to be gone right away. And if FSU had no wins this year, if Atkins was still there, he would be there. So I'm surprised it's gotten to this point. I didn't realize it was going to. And if you remember back, what's funny is he actually compares the situation to LSU with Will Campbell and their old offensive line coach when he left, when Will Campbell came in to LSU, and that Will Campbell stayed the course and was with the transition with the new staff. So I think it'll be interesting down the stretch, but as long as he likes the offensive line coach, even if it's just a little bit, I think he sticks.
And then, of course, on your side, Corey, you have 4-star. I don't even know what you call him. Wide receiver, tight end.
Pass catcher. I call him pass catcher in my stories. At this point.
Tay Gelsey. Tay's been over at FSU, and you could tell he's been struggling with this decision where, he sees like, yes, FSU doesn't have a receiver coach. Yes, they don't have an offensive coordinator, but there's an attraction of position. And I think you said in one of your stories, like, is this closer than you guys, a lot of guys you feel like, that it is, that a lot of people perceive it is, but just your vibe about that recruitment, 4-star tape.
Yeah, no, I talked to his family quite a bit, and kind of getting the behind the scenes feel with him, and like you said, Michael, it's very close. I know the big thing separating them is I know he plays wide receiver in high school, and the appeal of playing wide receiver at Florida State, that's a big thing to him and his family. And I know Florida wants him to pack a little bit of weight on, and that's been a thing that they've been kind of so about. Another thing on the Florida side is obviously the relationships are strong, and I know someone told me he's almost loyal. He's a very loyal kid. But also Florida, how they utilize tight ends, that's been talked about. And I know they try to sell them on the whole Kyle Pitts role. You're not going to be a traditional tight end. You're going to be kind of split out as a hybrid. But I know they've been keeping an eye on Florida's tight ends and how they use them. I know that's something they're kind of so about. And obviously when it comes to the Noles, his dad's a big Florida State fan. That was like the school in the house. His mom's side liked Florida. But they've all came together and said, hey, like, we're cool. Like, wherever you want to go. Obviously we're cool with it, and they're not pressuring one way or the other. And like you said, Michael, at the start of this, it has been kind of stressful on the kid as of late. And I know this is the plan was to visit Florida last weekend and then FSU this weekend, take these last two visits and then compare them. He didn't get to Gainesville last week.
Okay.
He actually, his dad said he overslept. The playoffs are done, like the season's done, and he's like, hey, I bet he's been there almost every week too. He's there all the time. But I said on my board, I said, hey man, like. Yeah, he's been there a lot, but that's kind of notable. And I think, and obviously Florida State's not having the best year, but as we know in these rivalry games, they usually are played a lot closer. I mean, obviously I'm favoring Florida going into it, but like guys, it's one of those games that wouldn't shock me. All of a sudden they're struggling, the crowd and all that. So I think right now, man, I almost give Florida State a very, very slight edge. It's almost a coin flip.
Okay.
It's going to come down to me, the loyalty, and obviously you would think with Lagway and these commits, it's all going to Florida, but it's still he's kind of looking at his individual situation too. Like how can I get to the next level? And Ron Dugan's, I know him and his dad, Ron Dugan's and Gelsey's dad had a mutual friend, and I guess that's what brought them together. And I thought maybe that firing could seal. And they said no, not at all. Like it's really going to be about Tay's fit the next level. So it keeps coming back to that. And if Florida State has a great showing, on Saturday, and they see an opportunity to hit the field early. You guys know about the depth chart more than me as far as Florida State, but they feel like he has a chance to play early as a bigger receiver. I think that's going to be a big appeal. So I understand when they say it's stressful. I can see from their view like how this is hard. So right now, man, it's almost a coin flip. It's a tough one.
Thanksgiving's probably interesting in that household with FSU, Florida. When one side FSU, Florida, but I get it. Tay's going to make his own decision. And Matt, certainly, we talked about FSU recruiting, and you kind of want to focus on 2025. I think there's some guys in there that they could, slide in there and get a few. A few of them are officially visited. We've covered that in the official visits, and then there's more, probably unofficial visits. But just moving forward, though, because this is thing with me, Matt. Like, I'm not focused on recruiting. I know I'm a recruiting analyst, but I'm focused on the hires. So how quick can we see a turnaround with FSU recruiting? Say you get the right guy. Say you get two really solid coordinators, and let's say an offensive line coach is announced. What kind of shift do you think that brings to FSU recruiting? Going into the portal season on probably December 9th.
I mean, if you make a hire come Sunday, right after the UF game, then you're looking at maybe they can flip a few extra kids because you don't know, depending on who they get. Like, this is completely hypothetical, not saying this is going to happen. Say they get the guy from Georgia Tech at offensive line, Jeep.
Right.
Josh Petty was obviously considering Florida State very heavily when it came down to his commitment earlier on in the summer. Obviously, NIL had a play in that, but say he has a tight relationship with Jeep, and he already liked Florida State. His sister goes to Florida State. Now he's got that offensive line coach that he actually committed to at the school he was close to committing to beforehand. So those little things could cause last-second flips in the 2025 class. And then when it comes to portal, the kids obviously entering the portal earlier, stuff like that with these guys, the relationships here are key when it comes to that.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be, a solid surge, with recruiting momentum, either from the portal or, out leftover guys as far as that didn't sign, or some guys that maybe had committed to other schools that may last minute. I think FSU pulls. So that stuff's fantastic. Well, close your ears, Warchant fan, FSU fans. So I'm taking to give Corey a little love. Corey, I've known for a while, and the Gator fans that are watching this, if you need coverage, GatorsOnline is the place to go. Keith Newer does a great job there, as far as I know a lot of the team. I've known Corey for a long time. There's not a better one to cover Florida recruiting than Corey Bender. Corey, I greatly appreciate you coming on today. Thanks for coming on. Our Matt Lasser. And for Matt Lasser, I'm Michael Langston. This is the Warchant Roundtable. We hope to see you soon.